Friend says he thinks it can be. Hello, host Eric here, talking with famous people. I'm with famous people Alex and famous person Lorenz Walker and famous person Faust Guys in the chat. And we're going to talk in this time in the historical dinner. We've traveled back, I don't know, to about 2000 and the year 2000 when this guy was still alive. And his name is Albert Hoffman. He's the guy who invented or discovered or chemically arranged LSD. So before we started this video, Alex and I both did a little research. We looked at the Wikipedia page, and the reason I'm interested in this guy is because he tripped accidentally the first time, and that must have been. I would think it would have been really scary, but he didn't seem to be too scared by it. Because if you just touch some chemical at work, right, and you don't know anything about anything like acid or whatever, and then you start tripping on acid, I would be freaked the fuck out, I'm sure. Who wouldn't be, right? You know? But he seemed to take it in stride. He didn't go to the hospital or anything.
He just, yeah. Is that a character of the times that he did it? You know, back in, when was it, 50s or 60s or 43, 1940s? Like, okay, whatever. If I die, I die. But otherwise, give me some more.
We're in the middle of a bird war. I don't have time to go to the hospital. I'm just going to take acid all day. That's what he said.
I'll rub some dirt on it and I'll be fine.
All right. So he ended up becoming a big proponent of it, and for use in psychoanalysis. He took the first intentional acid trip a couple days after he accidentally ingested it on a day that is now known as Bicycle Day, because he rode home on his bicycle after ingesting 250 micrograms. What do you think about this notion that LSD is useful in psychology in some way, or psycho realization, or whatever?
Who knows? I just know in our country anyway, we have a proclivity to ban things that work in favor of things that just kind of band-aid situations instead of actually providing cures. It's probably the cynic in me says, well, people enjoyed it and people got a positive effect, therefore ban. Because that seems to be our Puritan culture, as it were.
Well, because I think the reason for that is primarily people have this great ability to project out potential problems.
Yeah, so, evolutionary, that makes sense.
So they say, oh, Jesus, this is new. It has apparently strong, powerful effects on people. It has unpredictable effects on people. Some people have very bad experiences with it. Let's err on the side of caution. But the problem with this notion is nobody ever says, let's ban it because I can't control myself. I need you to control me with threats. Nobody asks the law. Nobody says, I need a law for myself for you to threaten me with coercion to stop me from doing things that I might want to do. So it's fine if it doesn't apply to anybody else, but let's just have this law just apply to me because I need to be coerced in that fashion. Mm-hmm. It's always for somebody else, right?
Because to do otherwise would be to admit self-weakness and admit a flaw about themselves. Therefore, they do that through proxy.
But I mean, my point, that might be one psychological explanation, but I think it might be as simple as people just don't think much of each other, you know? It's like, oh,
as
well,
much as they don't think of each other, I think most people think less of themselves.
But you're demonstrating not thinking much of other people, right? See, I assume other people have the ability to make their own choices, to make their own decisions about that stuff, and that they're going to make better decisions about themselves than some third party.
Yes, I
Um,
agree with that. I
so
don't believe most other people believe in that same manner, however. Demonstrably.
what's weird though, I like to use the fire analogy. If in fact people were so prone to abusing and using in bad ways things that had the potential to be abused and used in bad ways, such as fire, then why aren't we constantly ablaze in conflagrations? Because anybody could go get 50 gallons of gas, one of these, or one of these, and do some serious damage, right? If this potential risk, this potential harm, is left in the hands of regular people, well, Jesus Christ, I mean, it's impossible to imagine the damage that would happen, the chaos. Except it doesn't, because people end up making good decisions when they're compelled to by liberty. Which is to say, if people had to deal with the fact that they could go into a store and buy any drug they wanted to, well, that would separate the men from the boys, wouldn't it?
Hmm. The first thing that pops in my head when thinking about this is I saw a video of yours the other day where you were talking about INTJs and how um, they can appear, in regards to debate, less effective because they're a little slower on their feet
Uh,
and because they take a little time to reflect on things. And this is one of those things where I'm thinking, oh, damn, maybe I'm INTJ, but to to think about, I don't know if it's an immediacy of things, but I just look and talking about fire, and then I would compare it to prohibition in that same vein of protecting. So maybe it's not so much the majority of the given thing. Fire spread out, you see the utility of it. Fire has a utility as well, and maybe that utility is more apparent than the utility of something
well, it's
like
more universal. It's more universal, I think, so that everybody can identify with
mm,
it. Whereas
yeah,
not everybody can identify with the need to smoke cigarettes. Well, you don't need to smoke those,
right,
Eric. You could just
right,
stop smoking them anytime. Well, I
right.
could, I guess, sort of, but fuck you for saying that anyway. It's like, that's sort of my attitude about it. Is
Mm-hmm.
your claims about my will are strange.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody wants to make claims about my will, that's strange. And
Yes.
so, like, many up saying, well, young people don't have the ability to make wise decisions. Well, here's the deal. I'm an alcoholic, right? So I can't drink alcohol. But
Mm-hmm.
that's something I have to self-impose. I can't go tell the stores to stop selling alcohol. You're drinking a beer right there, right? See? And this is something I'm constantly surrounded by alcohol. Every restaurant I go has alcohol signs all over. Yeah, and it took me to
Yep.
45 to quit drinking, and I struggled with it for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but here's the deal. I struggled with it, and eventually it broke me, and I had to come to terms with it. If it were PCP or heroin or cocaine or something, it probably would have broken me a lot sooner, and I probably would have come to terms with it a lot sooner. Now, alcohol is so. I mean, the point is, I prefer to do what I want without other people limiting. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
here's a good example. Well, PCP is not cause you to kill people. It's like Special K kind of. I've never done PCP, by the way, but I
My only
have.
experience is the after school special where the kid wanted to jump off the roof.
How
I
many
can fly.
how many murders have happened when people are on PCP? I
I have
refuse
not.
to
I don't know the
believe.
data. I don't know.
I refuse to. A lot, says Files Guys. I refuse to believe that PCP causes you to kill people. Does alcohol cause you to kill people because there's a lot of murders by drunk people?
I No, just as anything else that you ingest in your human body or any action the human takes, a substance may change your proclivity at the time or your resistance to a particular action, but you're only acting in your nature.
Right. Now, the one thing I will say in defense of the of the anti-PCP case is PCP is a dissociative drug, which is well, if you've ever been in the K-hole, as they call it, the K-hole is when you do too much special K, which is ketamine. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it. Thank you, Lorenz Walker. It's called ketamine. It's an animal tranquilizer that's related to PCP.
Oh,
And
I
if
thought
you
that was like some vitamin in carrots.
no, that's carotene.
Oh, okay.
um, so, back in the day when I was younger and had actual drug problems, I did way too much Special K one time, and it was I was it's hard to say. I mean, it's the most dissociative. It's the only word for it. Experience I've ever had. It's the time in my life when I felt least like myself on any drug. But I still, I mean, it tore me into inaction. I was just sort of like,
When you say dissociative, you mean like separation from who you are as an individual, or like complete separation from being a human? Like out of body experience and that kind of crazy stuff.
no, it wasn't out of body, but I was unable to find myself anywhere. Like I had no
Mm.
idea. Basically, I could. There was nothing to hold on to. It was weird. It's a really strange drug experience. Not a good one. I never wanted to repeat it after that happened. But
Mm.
I will say that that experience suggests that it does sort of disconnect you from yourself, um, in disturbing ways potentially. Um, no, I don't think no LSD is not considered dissociative. If anything, it's associative. It causes you to make wild associations between things. Whereas whereas um, sure there is. Well, if you're tired, if you're sleeping, how about that? It's associative in the sense that it causes you to make a lot of wild different associations, visually, mentally, in terms of ideas and stuff like that. It's the opposite of PCP and ketamine in some ways. But yeah, I would never recommend doing those drugs to anybody. And I understand that it is potentially conceivable that certain drugs should not be on sale because, first of all, they're bad drugs. It's not like PCP is a good drug. I don't think anybody would choose it if they could choose from all the different drugs. It's not a fun drug.
Or whether just that's one thing that's always perplexed me. I've heard that about several drugs, and I've never tried marijuana in my youth, but that's about the extent that and alcohol is. But of people saying, this one, I wouldn't do that again. How does it propagate?
Well, because
If
there's a
majority of
paucity.
people don't like it,
There's a paucity of options. That's why. People are looking for ways
why
to
would
get loaded.
why would it continue to be an option? Why would people keep producing it if the results were majorly negative?
Well, because it does get you loaded in some sense. And people, drug enthusiasts, people who are drug addicts by nature like me, or like other people I knew and stuff, if there was a new drug, fantastic, let's do it, you know.
Mm.
But what's interesting is there was a little bit of a code amongst all of my drug people because we were all kind of, I guess, raised in nice suburban neighborhoods. We all had a rule that we'd never shoot anything or do PCP. That was our
Mm.
rule. And we all followed it too. Nobody ever shot anything and nobody ever did PCP.
That's interesting how that dynamic works. I just always that's the part I've always found perplexing is if you don't like it, and most people don't like it, how does it continue to?
You don't
Because
know you don't like it until
there's
you
different
try it.
options.
You know, if it genuinely changes your consciousness, and somebody is going to be like, "Oh well, I'll try it. I might like it."
Even though 5 or 6 people around him going, no, no, don't do that.
Right.
They're still, all right, what the hell? Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not a me thing, personality-wise. They're like, preponderance of evidence says this sucks, therefore I'm probably not going to mess with it.
Well, started talking about Albert Hoffman. We ended up talking about drugs. So this has been an interesting episode from my perspective. Thanks for watching Talking with Famous People. Zachary's here, so let's start a new one.
They were connected.
Yeah.